Right in.
Jumping right in. We're going to lesson 323.
Yeah.
Right? Yes. So 323, I gladly make the sacrifice, entre comillas, in quotes, of fear. Fear is the only sacrifice you ask of your beloved son. You ask him to give up all suffering, all sense of loss and sadness, all anxiety and doubt, and freely let your love come streaming in to his awareness, healing him of pain and giving him your own eternal joy. Such is the sacrifice you ask of me, and one I gladly make, the only cost of restoration of your memory to me for the salvation of the world. And as we pay the debt we owe to truth, a debt that merely is the letting go of self-deceptions and of images we worshipped falsely, truth returns to us in wholeness and in joy. We are deceived no longer. Love has now returned to our awareness, and we are at peace again, for fear has gone and only love remains. I gladly make the sacrifice of fear.
Beautiful.
It was perfect for
Sí.
today. I felt like I'm connecting now, but I've had like a morning.
Oh,
So I woke up, I had to take my car to get it fixed finally, and I forgot. So I wake up this morning and it was I don't know, I think it was at 9 or something, and I was like, oh shit, I gotta take the car in. And so I'm rushing and running, and of course I get the call from Viram, who's in Puerto Rico. He's like, the mechanic just called, they're waiting for you, they have the people there, and I'm like, I am on my way. So this is without breakfast, without coffee, getting into the car, and it's freezing here. Well, not freezing.
oh, really?
It got cold. Like it's in the 30s. So I get in the car um without a jacket, right? So I get there, I leave the car, and then I have to come back in an Uber. So I'm out there waiting, and I'm freezing. I have to accept everything that is happening. And I got here, I was able to, but it's been like bam. Also, Vidal starts calling me because we're renting a house in Puerto Rico, so he wants me to look over to the contract, and then Adriana's like, "Are we gonna connect?" And I'm like, "I haven't pooped yet."
Mira, I was going to say it, but I make the difference to you, not to you in the middle.
What?
Like, I know that you were saying, in other words, I need to shit before this shit. But since you bring it, now I feel okay with saying it, and I know it.
There's only one mind. No, yeah, and then all this is like I've had several days, like 3 or 4 days where I've had irregular bleeding also, and so this shit now, and it's not like it's not a fear. It's like I have to go to. I'm thinking, am I gonna have to go to the doctor? And it's more of like a sense of inconvenience. Can I just get over this thought of this body so that I don't have to go through this? It's more of like, this shit now. I don't want to go through this. And the option is like, well, what if you have something that you're going to eventually die of? And my thought is like, well, it's just an inconvenience.
But I do with those thoughts whenever something of the body comes up, is that I remind myself that whatever happens is not for taking care of the body. It's just for me connecting with the parts of me that are going to show up in the process. And
Yeah.
it makes it much, much easier and much joyful. And, you know, it is like, okay, you will show me in the way who is there that needs my blessing. Entonces, then you change it from the ailment of the body and any preoccupation that you have attached to that to your function of just bringing joy to whatever place you're taking because of that situation.
Sí.
And for me, it works because it puts me, and usually everything disappears and I don't have to go to any place. But my disposition is there in the willingness that I will be guided to those, to bless those that need me through a smile or through something more deeper, but you know, whatever the moment requires. And it changes the purpose completely,
Sí.
completely. And it becomes a joy and a blessing. Even thinking about it, you know, when you're totally responsible for whatever you're thinking and you know that the world depends on that, then you can fully enjoy the change of mind without having to go through the connections in the world. But you're understanding that everything is mine and only mine. It only takes a second to go through whatever and make the process of healing or forgiveness, which is the same, or overlooking or seeing it another way, or the same ways to say the same thing. And you become happy. Instead of, ah, shit, I have to go to the doctor, blah, 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 blah. That is changed to a happy thought, almost like that.
Mm-hmm.
Sí.
I will have happy encounters that we all need, you know?
Yeah, if I'm gonna move towards doing something, I want it to be effortless and I want it to be in a state of peace. Because even the feeling of inconvenience is an egoic thought. Because
For
it's like,
convenience.
¿cómo? Or
For convenience.
Sí, exacto. I mean, for me, I value it in the sense that, well, thank God I'm not in fear, right? But the fear is there, obviously, but the thought of it, but I don't feel it. It's just like, ah. And today I just felt rushed. Like there were so many, and I felt like I couldn't catch up. I couldn't catch up. And then at some point, you know, it's like, you know what? Just stop trying to control, stop trying to feel like this wave is coming over you, or you have no, just go with the flow, right? There was resistance like at every turn. I'm like, well, I haven't had my breakfast yet. I haven't had my coffee. I'm like, well, then that's how it's, because the thought comes and the resistance comes. And then I was like, this is what's happening now. So I just have to do this. And I can estar condenada or be in not be at peace or just be at peace with what's happening.
It's also interesting to me how, in my own way, finding how potent conditioning is. Again, which is just mind, but the fact that there's a belief that we have to have coffee and breakfast or we can do anything.
Sí, exacto.
Right. And truth is, it's just not true. I mean, we can get along just fine without both. But it does grip us. It takes us and heightens the story and the anxiety, and it feeds it more, and then we're completely out of control.
Yeah.
Given the circumstance.
You feel, right? Because the things aren't happening like you want it to happen in this order. At least that was that was what I was feeling this morning. But I feel better. But I was agitated.
That was your desire for this morning. And you experienced it totally as you had it, you know, not alien, not thrust upon you.
No, definitivamente, I made the decision of how I was gonna feel and how I was gonna react in every situation. I see that, but at least
That's very powerful, you know.
I felt I was present. I was watching. I was seeing what was happening.
Exactly.
That the decision was mine, and I had that decision to make.
Exactly. That's loving. That's lovely. And that's the way you want to look at everything. There's happiness there.
See.
Yeah. When we aren't a slave to the mind, to the ego.
We're not.
No, that's what I'm saying. When we're not a slave to the ego,
Okay.
there's happiness there. There's freedom.
Exactly.
It's just a matter of catching it.
When you know what it is, you don't. So lovely that lesson today, you know. The only sacrifice I do is fear.
Mm-hmm.
I will experience pain no longer.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean that the body will not experience pain.
Mm.
But you won't experience it.
See.
Yeah, I love the video that you shared.
Thank you.
And when I saw it, I was tired already.
That seems like a hike.
Yeah. I say, well, that takes some energy.
It does, but it's also so beautiful out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's like everything. If it brings joy to your heart, perfect.
When I was walking up, so it's uphill all the way to that point where I took the video, and then I continued on a little more. And it's interesting how, and it's not, I mean, it's obvious, but you're out there, it's quiet. Maybe you hear a little wind. You hear the crunch, crunch, crunch of your feet on the ice, an occasional bird or squirrel or chipmunk or something.
And you're breathing.
And the breathing.
You're breathing.
And then noticing how noisy the mind is.
Yeah.
With just stuff that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, nothing means anything anyway. So
right.
It gets to a point where that doesn't bother you.
And that's just it. You know, you get out of the car and, you know, it's cold. And so do I have the right layers of stuff on? That's the first story. And then, you know, you're walking up through the trees and there's a lot of ice, snow that's melted. People have walked on and then it turns to ice. And I don't have shoes. I was going to take another video, but it was too much work to do. I was going to take another video and just say it can be pretty dangerous out here if you don't have the right equipment. And I was going to start with just showing the ice. And then I was going to pan down and I was going to have just be walking in my bare feet on the ice.
That is completely unnecessary.
No, I know, but it would just have been a funny one. But I had long underwear on, I had long socks, and it's like I have to take all my clothes off just to forget about it.
All right, we already saw it because you told us, so we can enjoy that at this moment without having to go through the process.
But it's just watching how much in the beginning the mind is anticipating ice. Ice is, you know, you make the wrong slip and you may go down like you did the other day, but there's no chubby boy to pick me up.
Nobody over there.
And it hurts. It can really hurt. So, you know, that's the part of the beginning story. It's like, got to be careful how you move. And then eventually you just find your rhythm, the flow, and the noise just starts to be less noticeable. So, yeah.
It's very high. It's like you drive over there?
I drive to around, well, when I got done, I had climbed over 850 feet, but I was at 11,400 feet in altitude. I don't know what that is in meters, but
No, we do feet too.
yeah. Oh, okay.
We think feet and pounds and, you know, inches.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, that's very high.
Very high.
I don't think we have that altitude here in the island.
In Puerto Rico?
No.
No.
That'll be like 3 times the highest point here.
I don't know what the highest point in Puerto Rico is.
Where's your geography?
Hmm?
Where's
Yeah.
your geography? I think with the highest here will be like 4,
Mm-hmm.
3 something.
Yeah.
Ayuya.
Yo creo que sí están como, no llegan a los 4,000 pies.
Ayuya is the highest
Cero
point,
punta. Yo no creo que llegue a los 4,000.
and that's high. And you're talking about 3 times that. Damn.
I couldn't even get you out under the moon in Utah.
When I'm sorry.
I said I couldn't even get you out for a walk under the moon in Utah.
No. You're brave walking in that.
No, it's just knowing what's.
For the snakes.
What I would do is after dinner, because it was dark, and I had to walk supposedly off property to smoke. So I would tell everybody, anybody want to go stargazing? And there was always somebody, yes, me. Let's go watch the stars. Yeah, it was an excuse for me to go smoke.
Okay.
I always got somebody to come with me.
Sneaky.
Oh, they knew. Joanna was the only one. Come on, don't tell me anything about the stars. Let's go. We're gonna smoke because nobody does this. But when she come with me by herself.
Hey, I'm going to smoke because here I cannot smoke.
When Joanna would come with me by herself, she would smoke a cigarette with me.
Oh, she did.
Yeah.
Nice.
That was
Nice.
nice. So we have the house rented from the 11th.
The one that you wanted, the one in front of the beach.
It's
lovely.
From January 11, I think it is.
That's a way. That's a nice way to avoid cold weather.
Sí, porque this morning it's gotten cold, so I'm just putting it out there so we can para que vaya mentalizing. Come visit me.
I'm not gonna plan anything, Astrid, really.
No, yo sé, pero tener
because I need to be here present to clean for the apartments. And they are, you know what? I haven't told you this, but since the pandemic, we check again. While now we're waiting for the realtor to bring us somebody for a long-term rental. We're still renting through the Airbnb platform, and there are only like 5 or 6 rentals in the area. Whereas before there were like 300.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So I'm guessing that from this moment on until something happens, I will have a turnaround.
We'll have a lot of people
coming in and out. Yeah. So that will probably we have to adapt, and you will have to come here instead of me going over there.
Está bien. I could do that. Let's see
You
what-
have nobody who can come in and while you were gone for a few days.
Well, what I could do is close it, block it.
I don't know.
Because really, I've been here for 10 years, but for the last 6 years, I haven't done anything social.
We'll just
So
see-
I know people, but I don't hang out with people like that.
Maybe
No.
the boy next door will help out.
He's very, not the one there too. There's one that is the satiro, how you say that in English?
the pervert.
Pervert.
Okay, no, but the uncle of the pervert is very nice and very willing and very friendly and very loving and but he's very torpe. ¿Cuál es la palabra para torpe?
He's like a brute.
So whenever he comes willingly and lovingly to do any favor, I end up having to hire somebody to correct what he does because he always end up breaking something.
So it's
And,
not really a favor.
I gave him, the freedom, como es, the whatever of the dog for many, many years. And I kept on, spending 3-4 times whatever the job was supposed to be done. So I really
You don't
accepted, I accepted that, even to drill a hole, it's like, if anything could go wrong, with him, it will go wrong, So I love him, but I know that I cannot. But it's okay. We will see. I'm not afraid of going anywhere, but the spirit will have to be, very obvious in that. And since you have that long list of people, I know that you will be very good accompanied.
You know how it is. People say yes, 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 and then they don't appear. But you know
Anyway,
that
it's not that far. It's like 2 hours, ¿verdad? Through 10 across the island.
I don't know how long it is from Ponce, but sí, son como dos. It's like an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah, that would be the choice, number 10.
Sí.
And that's a beautiful road.
You say number 10 is the number of the
Highway.
highway. Sí.
Sí, it's a very nice road that crosses the island from north to south.
Mm.
And then from Arecibo to Manatee will be like half an hour.
Is that an area where you guys would be looking for a place to live?
Probably, yeah.
I mean, generally speaking.
Yeah. Yeah, it's close to where Vidam has established a lab. So it'll be probably close there. And I don't know. Right now with the pandemic and everything, I don't think I want to be in San Juan. I mean, I'm from San Juan, but I don't know. I don't know. It's like these thoughts come and go. It's like I don't know anything. It's just I don't even know if
The lab is in Rio Piedras o es en Vega Baja. What happened to the lab in Rio Piedras?
I don't know.
¿Te acuerdas que había uno en la calle Simón Madera?
I don't know. You
don't know about that. Okay.
One, so
That's the one where Tere is, okay.
that
So-
it was.
Tere no more.
No more. That is my friend from childhood. Like she's my friend. We were friends since we're like 13.
Yeah. She's been forgiving Viram from the same time.
They've been forgiving each other because it was she was fantastic in the whole process of establishing the lab and getting people to work and to receive all of the equipment and to make sure that everything is installed and everything's running. And they had the lab technicians and everything running. She did everything. But after that, everything went off the rails because Tere is mandona, she's, what's the word? She's
Bossy.
bossy.
But one thing comes with the other, in order for you to achieve things in this world, you will have to be like that. Everything comes with a price. We know that.
And then she was going through a divorce too. But
No.
she divorced.
Really? No, you never told me that.
I didn't. The whole life, her life circumstance.
Really?
In her mind because they're still living in the same house. Everything is nothing has changed.
No fucking way. So why would they divorce? Because of the same reason that they married. But they weren't married just for a technicality. After I don't know 20-something years, they decided that they needed to be married. Like
no, they've been married twice. They've married each other twice, and they've divorced each other twice. And they've been boyfriend.
They're living together all the time.
No. When the first time they divorced, they actually separated for several years. But
Best to both anyway.
I remember when she told me, I'm getting a divorce, I'm like, why are you gonna do that? You're just gonna marry him again.
Going through the motions.
But she was.
I want you to know that Biram is a name that Rafael, which is his actual name, he took from Osho because he was an Osho follower. I don't know for how many years, but he actually lived in a community.
In Pune, India.
Oh, he was in Pune.
See, this was in the 90s. Osho hadn't died yet. So he went to, I think, I don't remember if it was in the 90s or, yeah. So he spent some time there, and that's the name that, that I don't know if you know that the Osho disciples, they were given names. So that's, his name is Anandi.
So what does Biram mean? And he happened to be the brother of many brothers and sisters, and the youngest of that family studied with us in law school and was a very dear friend of us both.
That's how we know him.
Exactly. And this young guy committed suicide. And then after that, Astrid met the brother. So it's crazy connection.
Jose Miguel, he hung himself in September. Was it September? Yeah, it was September. It was before 9/11, September of 2001. I think it was like the 9th of September. And then I met Biram in January.
And then the Twin Towers fell down.
It was a horrible month. It was horrible. I remember
everything went to fuck. You know what?
I was working as a legal advisor in the Senate, and Jose Miguel was also working there. And I would see him every once in a while. So when I got the call, I called Adriana, and Adriana's, nunca se me olvida, I'm never gonna forget your reaction. Hey, mamao. That was her reaction.
Mama is like a fool.
Wow, that was your reaction.
What a fool. He was going to get married and, but he had, I don't know. That was unexplainable really because he was very well taken care of apparently in the world, and he had a good position, and he had a girlfriend, and he was going to get married very soon, and he was highly regarded as a very, of those conventional figures that are very conservative and very like deemed in the world to be successful. So something happened.
Up and coming.
Yeah.
So it was a shock to
I
everyone.
don't remember that. You remember so many things of me that I don't really remember.
Because to me it was, I remember Aixa was the one that called me, because Aixa also worked. Aixa is another friend of ours that studied with us in law school, and she was also working in the Senate. She was the one that called me. I was in the office, and then I called you. I was like, Adriana, you sitting down? And she's like, what? Like, ¿qué clase de mamá? Because no one reacts like that. That's why I remember.
I didn't have the course at that time, otherwise I would have said good for him. You know, because I would have understood that he had completed his time and it was time to go. Doesn't matter how you decide to leave the shit, you will leave it. O sea,
Yeah.
leave de.
Yeah.
So
I think it just for me it's he was so intelligent, but he had indoctrination. I don't know. I think that he noticed there's something that's not right here, but he didn't know how to get out of it other than doing what he did. He thought that obviously when you do something like that, it's because you think that's the only option, the only viable option to leave the world.
For many, that is the only option, huh?
Yeah, but Adriana loved him more than I did. I thought he was an asshole.
he was. But we shared a scholarship. I studied law with a scholarship, and there were 3 of us in the whole class that had the scholarship. So we were kind of like in this little group.
Sí. So Lupita is going to connect with us in 40 minutes.
Do you have anything to do before that?
Anything for what?
You want to wait for her here?
I mean, whatever, you know, I'm just putting it out there. It's just a conversation.
40 minutes?
Huh?
40 minutes?
Yeah, in 40 minutes.
Did you eat already, Gary?
Little bit, but more important is did Astrid eat?
I did.
Okay, and you had your coffee?
And
Yes.
she too.
And thank you. I wasn't going to ask.
She
That
did
seemed
the
a
whole
little too
process.
personal.
It was just a whining, me just whining. It was nothing. I got everything done. There was, you know, the Uber got there really quickly in 3 minutes. It's just me whining.
Oh.
When it all happened, it was like, and then I'm getting called,
And then you come to us, oh, join me in the whining, please. You know what I got from okay, I already worked my ass off today. So I'm just waiting for the sun to dry the sheets, and I already had lunch, so I'm good. So I'm gonna keep talking, and if you wanna leave, you can leave, and then I turn off the computer.
I'm here. I got nothing except these damn blowers going off and guys up on my roof.
Really, we cannot hear them.
Oh, no?
They're not at all.
a little bit like, but it's low.
I don't hear
Yeah,
it.
well, they'll work around the house and then it'll be quiet again. I can't hear you.
That's why you keep moving.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, I know what that that feels like.
It's fall here, so every time they come once a week and they just blow and blow and blow all the leaves.
You have a 2-tier roof or a flat roof?
Flat.
That's strange for a place that snows.
It's in New Mexico or in Santa Fe, almost total.
And what happens when it snows? It doesn't snow there.
Oh yeah, I'm at 7,000 feet, so we get snow. But the houses are built with foam roofs, And this particular house, when the roof was done, apparently it was done before the technology changed. And so with the technology change of foam, the new roofs repelled birds and insects.
Really?
The old roof, the birds get up there and they peck in the roof and they make holes. So I've got a guy up there who's just doing patchwork today, so I don't spring a leak. Yeah.
Whole thing about taking care of the house and taking care of this body, it's exhausting. You know that I had this conversation with Adi when we came back from the dentist because he had a cavity, and he was saying it's so expensive just for one cavity. He saw me paying for it. Said, yeah, we've invested a lot into your mouth because at some point he had braces as well, and he was like, yeah. And it's like we had this conversation from that. We had this whole conversation about how fragile the body is, and the question of why God would make us into these fragile bodies. And I'm like, that's not what
What a
happened.
beautiful moment, huh?
it was a
God
great,
didn't make shit.
yeah. So we had that conversation where I thought, well, that's something that you have to look at and question. Like, would a loving
Lovely.
God create imperfectly, and what will be the purpose of it?
Yeah.
Mind training.
I've been thinking
Mind
about
training.
the word perfection a lot. The word perfection, the word
Uh-huh.
perfection.
Mm-hmm.
Like perfection in the imperfection. Like perfection in a whole, total, new, all-encompassing way. It's been coming to me.
Like everything is.
Uh,
So yeah, we got to the point where, yeah, he was questioning that, and we had a good conversation. It was
did he watch the Crown with you?
The Crown.
He watched it with you.
No, he had seen the other episodes. We watched Utopia together, which was pretty
Okay.
interesting.
No,
But
because in the Crown you can get a feeling of, that it doesn't matter how good life seems to present on your feed, on your script, it will be shit anyway. It doesn't matter how privileged, how much money. It's always, always so sad, so depressing, and so limited. And we're just talking about body roles, ¿verdad? When you compare it to the spirit self, it's really so crazy to even entertain the thought that we could be better here.
no,
When we
like,
totally don't belong here.
exactly, because who could be more privileged than the royal family? And you see that fourth season, they're awful people and they're miserable. No one there is happy, joyful. It's just horrible. It's just something, it's so sad. It's very sad. And
And it's happening even now. I mean, look at was it Harry that went off to Canada with Meghan, and what that meant to his place in the.
he's probably miserable too.
Oh, of course. I mean, and all they're trying to do is make it a little bit better for he and Meghan, but
Privilege.
everybody, man, nobody gets off this planet without piles of shit until you decide that it's just not true,
and then you start laughing.
And then you start laughing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was telling Adi yesterday. I'm like, this is just what we've done is we've tried to separate, and this thought came into our mind, what would happen if we separate? And this is what happens. We are just watching a thought of what if. And and the only thing that can happen if we would separate is the opposite of love and the opposite of God, which is this horrible, miserable place and nothing works. And you have a body that breaks down. And at 17, we've already put in thousands and thousands of dollars into your mouth only to get it to work, which probably you're gonna have to keep up all of your life. And that's just the mouth.
That's just the mouth where all the shit just comes out of. I got a perfect mouth for perfect shit.
I was remembering Kenneth Wapnick saying that we are an afterthought.
I see. Yeah. So, but he's getting it. He's seeing it. The thing is that he's open to dialogue. I don't impose the dialogue. It just happens organically.
Well, and the fact that he actually is aware. I mean, how many kids are actually aware enough or care enough that their mother's forking out these dollars for something that, you know, he sat in the chair and had to deal with? Usually like, can we go, you know, it's like, I'm out of there. I'm free. I don't have to deal with the pain anymore. But to actually turn and look and say, wow, that cost my mother whatever it costs. That's a lot of money. And then have a dialogue about, that's not one of the kids that I hung out with, you know?
Yeah.
So that's good. It makes the conversations like you had a lot more available because you're not having to bring them up.
No.
They come from you.
No, it doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't.
No. And usually because he has a dark sense of humor and sarcastic. I mean, he's 17, so he rolls his eyes a lot, but you know, sometimes every once in a while the conversation is free of that, right? The teenage angst. So it was good. It was interesting. And now I have to, you know, and now I'm dealing with my other one who is failing all of his classes. And me sitting here thinking, I should be doing something because he just doesn't connect. He doesn't connect because it's just snowballed to the point where he's missed so much that he feels it's an impossible situation. And I'm just sitting here going, I don't know what to do. I don't want to make him feel bad because I don't have to do anything because he does that to himself already. So
Yeah.
so it's like, what do I do? There's no motivation. So that's one of the things that I've just been like giving over to the spirit. I'm like, you're gonna have to deal with this. Zero idea. And if I did have an idea, it'd probably be the wrong idea. And just accepting the situation as it is. You know, he went from being like, but the thing is that for me at this point, it's like, at some point he's going to have to undo all of this learning anyway, you know? So I'm in that situation of like, what am I going to do? What do I have to do? What should I do? Should I do nothing? Should I do something? Angélica, ay Dios mío.
Dale que se una. She can join.
Bueno, estamos.
We're here. Gary, ready to talk Spanish?
Perfecto.
Where did your Spanish come from?
My ass, I think generally.
Your ass.
My
Tu
ass.
culo. Tu culo.
Tu culo.
¿Por qué de tu culo?
I tried to learn Spanish in my adult life. I went to Playa del Carmen near Cancun
Yeah, yeah, I know.
and studied for a month.
That's a nice place to go and Who
It
goes
was,
to Playa del Carmen to learn Spanish? Come on.
yeah, and it was before it was really crazy. You know, it was still a little more quiet.
Okay.
And then
Like
I
in
remember
what year?
probably in the 90s, mid 90s, late 90s.
All right.
And then I went to Ecuador and I studied in Quito for a couple of weeks and then went to Cuenca and studied for another month or more. And it would just like the words would come and they would just like hit up the side of my head, like they wouldn't go in. I don't know.
That's the most fancy way to learn Spanish that I ever heard.
Well, it's the only way that I know, except for going to take a class. And who the hell wants to sit in a class? I'm done with school that way.
Yeah, that's an excuse to go and travel.
Yeah. I'd go for, Christmas break or something and go and try and learn some words. And, there was a time when I actually had my little flashcards of words. And when I got home, I'd keep them going. But I didn't have anybody to speak to.
Sí.
Now you can practice.
If I thought for a moment that I could actually sort of learn this language, I would make a tremendous effort. But I've tried and I've failed and I feel bad.
Oh, another whiner.
This is a wine fest.
Everybody, we all are motherfucker ungrateful and whining.
That's the word. Yeah, I was just completely being ungrateful this morning. That's true.
Yeah, so
I encourage you because when you say words in Spanish, I hear an authenticity in the pronunciation. That's why I asked you.
Well, that's something that I at least tried to do, was to at least pronounce the words.
And you can do them. And now that you are talking with us, you can, nobody's seeing us. Lupita.
Right, and it's interesting too. I was thinking about this morning on my walk, that there's a different, in the Caribbean, like in Cuba and Puerto Rico and that whole chain, there are words that are said differently.
Sí.
Like when I was in Cuba, the Spanish sounded lazy to me. Like they just cut the end off. They cut the end off all the words.
Yeah, it's like in the British Isles, they talk English in a different way. It's the same language, but they use even words that are different. And they are all close,
Yeah.
Some of them are just a border apart, but they have their own. And it's the same with Spanish everywhere.
Yeah. So you guys say buenos dias.
Buenos días.
Yeah, and then in Spanish, we say buenos dias.
Buenos dias. Yeah.
But that has to do with the influence. It's not lazy, it's just the influence from the Taino dialect and from the African dialects. Because
the
Taino, I think I read this, the Taino dialect doesn't have an R sound. So that's why we change some of the R's to L's. Because it's a softer language than Spanish is. So we have that influence. That's why to me, Spanish from Spain sounds very harsh.
Oh, it is.
It's very harsh. But yeah, it's not lazy. It's just
It's like the British language, the British English versus the American English versus the Northern American English versus the Southern. American accent. You know, it's just
Sure, yeah.
nothing.
No, I was just when I was in Cuba and I'm listening to people talk and I kept thinking, God, they're just cutting all the words off. So what I thought was, it's just, and it is a softer language.
And you were in Cuba before the missile crisis? Or after?
No, I wish. No, I was there 3 times in the 90s.
Wow, me too.
Once legally and the other 2 not so much.
Yeah, you went through Panama.
No, I came once from a couple friends. We drove down to San Diego, across the border, and got a flight out of Tijuana.
Okay.
And then the 3rd time was from Cancun.
Because I about the same time I went 3 times too when
Oh,
I
yeah.
was working in San Juan as a lawyer.
¿Tú fuiste con quién fue que tú fuiste?
Con Fermín,
Fermín.
3 años. Yeah, my partner in the law firm. He had connection because he had been like how you call that militant aid in the 60s. As a youngster, he was kind of connected to the revolution. So he had connections with the government. So the way we did it, we went to Panama and then through Panama, then we didn't get our passports stamped. They didn't do that. So
No.
there will be no evidence that we were there. Or another time we went through the Dominican Republic. But the thing that was that we didn't get our passports stamped when we get there. So when we came back, there was no evidence.
Yeah, same.
But we didn't went there for anything that wasn't like for having fun, you know, on the appearance of doing business.
Yeah, the first time I went was with a museum in LA, the Museum of Latin American Art. And we went, at the time it seemed like the only way in because we just weren't really educated.
Exactly, that sometimes they were allowing cultural endeavors.
So we flew direct right from Los Angeles into Cuba.
So what did you do for the museum?
And nothing, the museum had connected with an art dealer who sold Latin American art. And it was the year that the Biennale was in Havana.
Okay.
So we went in and we were just sort of driven around and, you know, it was fine. It was fine for a first time. Met some lovely people. And I think I told you some of this, didn't I, Astrid, when I'm in the monastery?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, it was a lovely time. And the other 2 times were just kind of, you know, I had met the guy I needed to meet the first time, and then I used him the second 2 times to help me get around and a fixer,
Right.
if you will.
Okay. So you didn't stay at the National Hotel?
I did at the
first time.
The second time. The first time we stayed at another big one. And that's when we saw Fidel. We'd come out, it was the last night that we were in town, and I told Astrid this, we come out back from the restaurant and there was the hotel. Yeah, I'll remember it here in a minute. The hotel was in a square. So we were coming back into the square, and this is 11:30 at night. It's packed with people, all local Cubans. And parked in front of the hotel was a Mercedes sedan, a black one, with a couple guys dressed in military garb. smoking and talking. We walk into the hotel and there's people in the lobby and they're like, I said, what's going on? You see that room up there in the mezzanine? Fidel Castro's there. I'm like, come on. Wow, really? That makes sense. So we hung out for about an hour. And finally, we were upstairs waiting to get a picture of him. We were told very nicely to go back downstairs. We go downstairs and he comes out with a woman and a man in a suit. And he comes up to the edge of the mezzanine and there's a little section that sticks out. And he looks down at everybody and he says in Spanish, which I can't repeat, he says with his arms up, very just genuine, sweet, what are you all still doing awake? He said, how come you're not asleep? And he actually closes his eyes and he puts his head in his hands like this. Why aren't you asleep? And then he said, I wish I could stay and talk with you, but tomorrow is the inauguration of Vicente Fox. And so I have to catch a plane.
Okay.
Walk.
Lovely.
And we were probably, when he came out of the elevator, I was maybe 15 feet away from him. You know, and with all the stories that I have grown up with in the US, how bad
they
this
made me a
man.
monster. No. And the Cuban people in the exile too. But no, he was a very level person and very honest and very he was kind of like at peace with what he was doing and what he believed.
Yeah.
And he always was a reflection of that.
Yeah.
When you hear his speeches and
Sí.
actually we saw recently a picture, there was something in Netflix that we watched. It was like the cameraman and Cuba.
Yes. Yeah, Astrid was telling me this one. Yeah, I haven't seen that yet. So
I never saw Fidel, but you know who I met? I went to the house of the guy that took the picture of you know, the famous picture of
I went to his house too.
You went to meet Cordas. He was a very lovely guy.
Yeah.
And
he was up in his years when we saw him.
Yeah, because we went there almost by the same time.
Yeah. Hold on.
I have a picture of him. You do have a picture, no me joda.
Mira, Angélica, que se va a conectar en 10 minutos.
Pues claro, mi amor, si la estamos esperando, estamos hablando mierda aquí esperando a la vida. Bueno, y a la lupa, porque cuando la lupa llega hay que apagar.
Sí. Yo voy a apagar ahora lo voy a apagar ahora.
El recording. ¿Sí, cuánto vamos? ¿Ya vamos por 1 hora?